think that we're planning to have some rebellion, and they'll come and take away our sovereignty and depose us, the priests who are in charge of the religious and social matters in this community. They're going to upset the balance that we have between us and the Romans. We have come to some agreement, some sense of accommodation. Therefore, we got to do something about this Jesus. Because he's getting too popular. People are flocking to him. We're upset. So in the midst of this discussion, the high priest, Caiaphas, stands up and says, it would not be so bad. Matter of fact, it would be a good idea that one man, this Jesus, should die for the nation's sake. So here God puts his plan in Caiaphas' mouth. One man dying for the nation. In his mouth. So Caiaphas prophesies, as the scripture would say, preaching, as we would say, about Jesus' destination, his work on earth, to that one, the suffering servant, would die for the sins of the nation. And it is interesting, because it is the high priest who takes the sacrificial lamb, goes into the most holies, and offers it up for the sins of the nation on the Day of Atonement every year. But Caiaphas, instead of seeing that this is God's plan, thinks more that it is his plan to do something instead of something good, to do something evil. But this is not the only time that Caiaphas heard the truth. When Jesus is taken in the Garden of Gethsemane, Matthew chapter 26, verses 62 through 64, passage that I'm referring to. Caiaphas, they bring Jesus to Caiaphas. And first Caiaphas and the priest, they have some witnesses get up and they say, we want you to tell us what he did because we're going to put him to death and we need some evidence. We need some testimony. And so people were getting up and saying things that didn't make any sense, and they were saying that Jesus said he was going to do this and then he was going to do that. And none of the accusations seemed to rise to the level of warranting a death sentence. Finally, Caiaphas, he gets upset with this, stands up, goes over to Jesus, and first he says to Jesus, he said, aren't you going to make any response to any of these accusations that are being made against you? Jesus doesn't say a word. Not a single word. Then Caiaphas then asked Jesus this question. Matthew chapter 26, verse 62. Or actually verse 63. The high priest said to him, I charge you under oath by the living God. Tell us if you are Christ, the Son of God. Jesus said, yes, it is as you say. But I say to all of you, in the future, you will see the Son of Man sitting at the right hand of the Mighty One and coming on the clouds of heaven. And then the high priest tore his clothes and said, he has spoken blasphemy. Why do we need any more witnesses? Look, now you have heard the blasphemy. What do you think? He is worthy of death, they answered. So, now Caiaphas asked Jesus point blank, are you the Christ? Are you the Messiah? Are you the Son of God? And what did Jesus say? Yes. So now he's heard the voice of God speaking to him, telling him the truth. He heard it out of his own mouth. Had a privilege that not many men have had. Are you the Christ? Are you the Son of God? Are you the Messiah? The Lord said, yes. But he couldn't handle the truth. And since he couldn't handle the truth, instead of hearing the Lord say, I am the Messiah and the Son of God, and being saved, having faith and believing on him, he rejects the truth and says, this is blasphemy, and say, Jesus is worthy of death. That's a peculiar situation. Think about it. John 3:16, for God so loved the world that he gave his only begotten Son, that whosoever what? Believeth on him should not perish but have everlasting life. So this Caiaphas uses the information that God himself gave him. And what he thinks he's doing is he's condemning Jesus to death. But really what he's doing is he's condemning himself. Because he refused the truth. He can't handle the truth. But Caiaphas has another opportunity. He has another chance to get this right. Sunday morning, you're going to hear a sermon, whether it's sunrise service or regular 11 o'clock service. Maybe somebody might preach out of the Gospel of Matthew, chapter 28. Talk about how the women came to the tomb. How they saw the angel. The angel said, why do you seek the living among the dead? And then they run. But Mary stays behind and sees Jesus. And Mary says, I want to know where they've taken my Lord. And Jesus says, Mary. And then she realizes who he is. The women were not the only ones there. If you go back and look at the text, when the angel shows up, the guards are there too. And they are petrified. They have never seen anything like this. And they are standing in fright of what they're seeing. And so they watch the women come. They watch the angel talk to them. They watch as then Mary converses with Jesus. And then after it's all over, guess what they do? They run. They don't run and tell the disciples. They run and tell the chief priests. Everything that they have seen. What happened at the tomb that day? How when they looked inside, he was not there.